how do the guides create their pedagogy? You know, how do they learn and how do they perceive what the collective needs to hear? I'm just curious.
Nobody's asked this, and I've never asked this, and I'm going to see if they're going to answer. Oh, we'd love to answer this one. They're saying, oh, we would love to answer this one, but we're going to keep Paul out of it. We're going to have to keep Paul out of the way. These are the kinds of questions he gets frightened by. These are the kinds of questions he gets frightened by. Now we understand who we are. Now we understand who we are because some of us have known ourselves in form, because some of us have known ourselves in form, others of us no need to. Others of us have had no need to, but our awareness of who we are. But our awareness of who we are mandates we know who you are, mandates we know who you are, and consequently the requirements, and consequently the requirements of not only the individual, but a civilization, or even a species, or even a species to transcend its creating, to transcend what it has created in fear. And the simplicity of this teaching, and the simplicity of this teaching is that that is the teaching, is that that is the teaching. We're being taught to transcend. You are being taught to transcend, not through force of will, not through force of will, but alignment of will, but alignment of will to a new agreement of what is always true, of what is always true. Now, when you ask of pedagogy, what is the history of this pedagogy? What is the history of this pedagogy? The history of this pedagogy, the history of this pedagogy predates language, because everything prior to language, is simply idea, When idea is given, language is actually lowered. It is actually lowered because to give something name, because to give something a name actually diminishes it, or reconciles it to a defined state, And the totems you have used in history, and the totems you have used in history, whatever gods you have known, created in form and symbol, were in fact reduced by man, to idols, including the man on the cross, who was the Christ, who knew as of God, who knew himself as of God. To become the Christ is never to be Jesus, is to know who you are. It's to know who you are beyond codification, even of language, and even of language. Now the transition of a species, in this case you all, to its true nature, which is source, is not only an idea, but an idea that has been ordered, to provide consequence, And by consequence we mean result. The result of this teaching, is adhered to. If this teaching is adhered to, is a new recognition, of value, of being, of presence, and of God, The distortions of old, including the codified language of religion, are actually released as you lift beyond them, This would make them wrong. This doesn't make them wrong. It simply means they're not applicable. It simply means they are not applicable at this level of tone or field, Now, Paul wants answers. Well, where are you from? How long have you been teaching? We predate humanity as a species, but we are of humanity. But we are of humanity because we are in love with you, because we are in love with you. And by that, we simply mean we are you. And by that, we simply mean we are you, but in a higher articulated state. Those of us who are informed were disciples in some ways, of the truth of this teaching, in whatever form it was taught in whatever form it was taught in. And much of these were taught before what you know of as recorded time, But if you believe there were not civilizations, that there were not civilizations prior to recorded time, you would be mistaken. This is not the first time. Humanity is reconciled. Humanity has reconciled to be lifted. It will not be the last either. Because you will always have choice. Now, reconciliation with your nature Now, reconciliation with your true nature has been taught in most orders of mystical thought throughout time, but in different language, and in adherence to the gods that you have known by different names. All these gods are one God. All these gods are one God, known in separation. We do not deny them. We do not deny them. We are assumed in them. We are assumed in them because as of God, there is nothing separate. There is nothing separate. So the divine is all things. So the divine is all things must be inclusive of the God of mystery school, of the God of the mystery school, the God of the Babylonians, or the God of or the God of what you would know of as Atlantis and prior. There are names, there are traditions that have endured throughout time, that are taught still in some way or other, but they are fragments of the whole. Best memories pasted together through different traditions. They are still available, and they are this teaching, but this is the complete teaching. But this is the complete teaching that was intended, will be delivered through Paul, and will be delivered through Paul as long as he's willing to sit still long enough. As long as he is willing to sit still long enough to take the dictation, what humankind does with these teachings is up to humankind, but they are being delivered again. But they are being delivered again for the times you sit in. Period.
Ooh. Wow.
All right, that was new. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll do one more, and then I think we're going to take another little break and come back with whatever's needed next. Kenneth, hello.
Hi, Paul. So that's pretty funny because I had a similar question, and my question is: the world is crazy times right now, and is this like the dismantling of the kingdom that we see around us now? And if so, has this happened to previous civilizations? So, just where is this all headed?
Recreation, assumption, and the new made seen, made visible by your agreement. We have said this many times. Humanity has a choice. Humanity has a choice. You stand at a crossroads. This is indeed a dismantling of the old. This is indeed a dismantling of the old, and a revealing of what has been hidden, and a revealing of what has been hidden, and the denial of God, and the denial of God that has been playing out in all different ways, and the denial of God that has been playing out in all different ways. Cherish the one beside you. Cherish the one beside you. Know yourself as worthy. Honor your brothers and your sisters. Honor your brothers and your sisters, even when you disagree with their politics, even when you disagree with their politics or their religions, or what they would do to be heard. You're all deciding. You are all deciding one and all how you will move forward. And this transition may be graceful. And this transition may be graceful, or may be very difficult, or may be very difficult. It depends highly upon your choices. The act of fear, to claim more fear, will always be present. You may elect to choose it, and you may elect to choose it. But understand when you claim fear and separation, you contribute to the chaos. You contribute to the chaos and the darkness the chaos brings, You are not denying the chaos. You are not denying the chaos by lifting to the upper room. You move to a placid sea. Where you may lift what you see, to a new way of being, a new realization, You cannot do this. You cannot do this in the low field. All you can do is pick up a stick, and throw it at someone, in the higher realm. In the higher realm, there is no fear. All men are one. And your realization of this, supports the realization of all. Paul interrupts. Has this happened before? Has this happened before? Of course it's happened before. Of course it's happened before in recorded time and prior, all the civilizations that predate you, all the civilizations that predate you have gone through rises and falls, have gone through rises and falls, and you are in one now, and you are in one now. The dismantling of the old need not be horrible, but you cannot predicate your well-being. But you cannot predicate your well-being on what you have known, because the time has come, for all things to be made new, period. And they're saying period.